do we still need to do the history lesson on these things? Okay, fine. Once upon a time, when 20th Century Fox was trying to keep its asking price high while negotiating for a buyout with Disney, they greenlit and went into various stages of production on various different strains of vaguely connected X-Men spin-offs built around the loosened continuum established by the Deadpool movies and Logan taking place sometime in the future, so that it would appear on balance sheets they had a more robust set of viable franchise blockbusters than they actually did. But whereas dubiously worthwhile hypotheticals like Cable Movie or X-Force either never got made or burned off as jokes in Deadpool 2 before the Disney deal finally closed, the New Mutants, a loose adaptation of the X-Men but with school kids again comic Marvel launched once it was clear the main series had completely abandoned any pretense to that aspect of its premise, actually went into production and got finished, and now has been sitting around unreleased ever since Dark Phoenix officially closed the book on the already long past its sell-by date X-Men movie franchise, a series which at its worst had always been stymied by a reticence to only ever step about halfway into the commitment of being a franchise in the first place, and so here gets to whimper to an end by scuttling what could easily have been either a perfectly decent self-contained genre-bending, in this case superhero blockbuster-era cocktail of Carrie, Firestarter, and the third Nightmare on Elm Street, or a fun teenage horror-inflected side story to a hypothetical, more robust, thriving X-Men series, into a dull, dreary series of half-measures that only serve to remind us, among other things, that these films never managed to write teenagers well unless they were serving as foils to adult men in order to reaffirm said adult men's eternal adolescent cool factor.
I like this guy.
Give him a chance.
Yeah.
Bye.
I'm gonna stop you right there. I see through this weak act.
Don't be mean.
Got any beer?
This is a school.
So that's a no?
Yeah, that's a no.
Hi, Wayne.
Hi, Yukio.
Please don't.
You guys make a super cute couple. Yeah.
Bye, Wayne.
Bye, Yukio.
Bye, Wayne.
Bye, Yukio.
Bye, Wayne.
Anyway, our plot, such as it is, adapts the Demon Bear storyline from the original New Mutants comic stories because in Bronze Age comic book writing, when one of your heroes is Native American, you throw ghost monster versions of indigenous North American forest animals at them and roll the dice that whatever you come up with is only mildly racist, with Blue Hunt as a newly orphaned mutant Danny Moonstar who wakes up in a lockdown hospital with a quartet of other traumatized teenage would-be supers who are all recovering from supposedly traumatic accidents which both triggered their mutations but also caused violent injury to those around them and are thus being psychologically evaluated by Alice Braga's mysterious therapist whose obvious supervillain name may as well be Dr. Suspicious. Anyway, one guy is a bootleg Human Torch, the other guy is an angsty speedball, but before the actual angsty speedball, Maisie Williams is a werewolf, ha ha ha.
I understood that reference.
Anya Taylor-Joy has most of Ilya Rasputin's silly combo platter of mutants plus magic plus whatever powers from the comics, but remixed with boring X-Men movie logic explanations, and yet somehow still so absurdly overpowered that it makes zero sense that she or anyone else here is ever in any danger whatsoever. And as soon as our audience POV character shows up, everyone starts having way too real encounters with manifestations of monsters from their worst nightmares and or worst memories, so try to look surprised when they figure out Danny's power, and then try to find some other way to keep your mind occupied while you wait for the giant ghost bear that she says she has nightmares about to show up, so the movie can pretend it was building to some kind of meaningful climax. If it sounds like I'm describing a movie that's just marking off time, that's because I'm describing a movie that's just marking off time. There was clearly some real effort put into New Mutants. There's a sincerity to the proceedings and a willingness to let things be, for lack of a better word, kind of boring for the most part, that you really only get from a licensed IP genre blockbuster that's confidently letting the heavy lifting of big-scale audience investment be handled externally, i.e. the actual X-Men movies will keep up the stakes and the concept, so we can focus on the stuff we ostensibly care more about, trying to be something like an actual horror film, the honestly very well-handled burgeoning romance between Danny and Wolfsbane, the obviously well-intentioned stabs at dealing upfront with issues like suicide, self-harm, and psychological trauma in teenagers, and theoretically, that makes sense. Unfortunately, that approach requires there to, be a rest of the franchise to lean on for support in the first place, not because the stuff that matters requires the tedious world building, but because the bones of the plot have otherwise been needlessly structured around a drawn-out, uninteresting mystery story with a plot twist set up wherein the heroes think they're being prepped to go off and join the Xavier School and become X-Men or whatever, but instead the whole facility is run by not that, which feels like it never would have been a convincing or interesting twist if this were still an ongoing franchise and now just plays out as tedious when we know none of this is going going anywhere and can't possibly matter. So what ends up happening is that right at the point where everything about the film and our investment in it should be tightening in on the main characters, instead it's trying to blow out into a bunch of bullshit world building that nobody cared about when it did kind of matter, which is why it doesn't matter anymore. And it's too bad, because amid the big stretches of nothing really happening, cheap looking but manageable aesthetic, and occasionally baffling decisions like handing various actors inconsistent accents, ridiculous wigs, and deciding that in lieu of a personality, Ilyana will just be intermittently racist for no reason because, ooh, edgy, and like I guess the Russians are still the bad guys again for a while, I don't know. Oh, and weird thing where everyone's dream monsters are like these fairly basic bad memory conjuring stuff, but then one is randomly an army of Hot Topic Cenobites that are implied to represent repressed memories of having been gang raped in a child brothel, and I'm like, guys, if you're gonna go there in the middle of what's otherwise your X-Men but submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society movie, I kinda feel like it should add up to more than just giving your good guys a putty patrol to smack around before the big boss fight. But yeah, apart from all that and, you know, the movie sucking, the actors are doing what they can, or what they could, since this is, what, 5 years ago at this point. So, you know, everyone you recognize you pretty much already know is good, and well, I guess Anna Taylor-Joy lucked the hell out since everybody just got done watching The Queen's Gambit, so they all recognize that she's actually good at acting before seeing this and learning she can also do the whole flailing around high camp so terrible it's maybe good henchwoman you send to seduce Flash Gordon business she's doing here. Anyway, thus ends the X-Men movies. Call this one a generous 3 out of 10. On the plus side, it's not like there isn't some precedent for new false starts not having to be the end of the brand.